came back home, and I was going to apply to Missouri State for their horticulture program because I like plants and biology and things like that, but I also like design, so I wanted to study uh, plant science and eventually maybe study like computer-aided drafting and just start doing landscape design, even if I couldn't do landscape architecture. Well, I had to get my grades back up after Kansas State, so I went back to a community college for a while, and I've been there for a semester now, and I thought that it would be okay, but the accumulated issue with I couldn't hardly stand to be in class anymore. It didn't stay, kosher. It didn't just keep staying right where it was at that minimum level where I could just barely stand it. There were several times when I had to get up and walk out of class, and it was bad because the classes that I were taking at that time were all mostly you're in class and most of the work you do is in class, which is also difficult for me because I can't hardly think during class. And my grades again are bad, and now I really don't have the grades to go anyplace else. So now my plan, such as it is to just go back to my original idea and just try to keep working and see if I can't get into a decent job. Which isn't really hardly a plan at all, all of my best laid plans. I originally fell into bouts of depression, like severe depression, quite a while back when I first developed this problem, because it was bad enough that it had that kind of a psychological effect on you, where you just you can't get up, you can't do anything, because you're just so upset, because every single day is so excruciating that it just wears you down. And after 10 years of having to put up with this and having everything that I had done, attempted, been a complete failure, and all the association with all the stress I've had to put up with. I remember in the dorm, there was the issue with all the doors slamming, because when you're irritated constantly, even if you can get away from the noise, for me particularly the coughing noise, other noises start bothering you. And that's one thing that I kind of neglected to mention earlier. I did have this thing where other noises particularly started really getting under my skin. Dishes clanging together started eliciting that rage response, which the thing is that I didn't have a rage response before, but after having misophonia, when something started getting under my skin, it kind of, the neurons in my brain, I guess, kind of connected to that rage response, and I started getting to the point where I couldn't hardly stand to be around certain things, like dog barking. No matter how many times I hear it, I can't stand it. I have to be away from that. And the doors, these big, thick, heavy, wide, solid wood doors, and some genius at that college at Kansas State decided to put spring-loaded doors on all these, on all the rooms. Okay, so you would hear giant, loud slamming all the time, because people would just walk through and swing their doors open and walk into their room, and the doors would just slam shut behind them. Of course, they didn't notice the sound. Why would they? Regardless of how excruciatingly loud it was, people just blocked that stuff out. But you can imagine, if you couldn't block that out, how horrible would that be, to have to listen to that all the time, not being able to block it out. And I couldn't, even if I was wearing my earbuds, I still couldn't block it out, listening to my iPod all the time, because when something is loud enough and has enough velocity to actually shake a concrete cinder block wall, there's not a whole lot you can do. And so I put a note that I attached to the front of my door that said, "Can you please not allow your doors to slam? I have a issue with noises." And it was kind of okay at first. There were people who were being very respectful about that issue, but the problem was I had people above me and people below me, and all their doors would slam shut, and so I would have had to have walked up and down to the different floors and start telling people about it. And I was a really introverted person. I've always been, so it was difficult for me. So I just tried, the loudest door slamming was on either side of me, so I would just try to put up with it, but I still couldn't hardly put up with even the people who were above me or below me or quite a ways down the hall, because even the slight noise still made me really upset, and I'd have to just control myself as best as I could. But sometimes I would shout and scream because I was surrounded by concrete walls, so I didn't think that anybody could hear me. Well, at that time I didn't know a whole lot about soundproofing, which I do now because I researched it, but evidently even a solid cinder block wall won't block out actually as much sound as you think. So there were people on either side of me or down the hall or wherever that could actually hear me screaming, but nobody said anything. But after finals, and I completely bombed my physics test, and I was really upset because at this point I knew that I was basically done at K-State, and everything that I had worked really hard for at that point meant nothing, and all the frustration that I had to put up with meant nothing. And then I come here and I see the note on my door had been torn off. I didn't know where it was. It wasn't on the floor or anything. It was just gone. Like, all the tape on either side on the corners of the note, the note had been torn off. And I was already depressed. I mean, it took everything I had really not to just jump out the window in my dorm room, and I mean that seriously. And now that I'm back, I've been kind of taking some time off before I actually start working again, and I don't know what I'm gonna do if I wind up in a situation where I can't put up with the noises. I'm really in the situation now that I was when I was 16, and I'm 27 years old, and in a few weeks I'll be 28. And I just don't have anything going for me, I've never had a girlfriend because of I can't hardly ask somebody to put up with my issues. I don't have friends. I don't have anything in my life except pain and misery, knowing that I can't gain anything. I can't get into a good job position. I can't get money. I'm broke. I don't have anything to show for all of my bullcrap that I've had to put up with. I guess I've kind of babbled on for long enough, but thanks for listening.